Leadership. It's a word you hear constantly. We say we want it, we look for it in other people, and there's a whole industry built around teaching it. But what if I asked you to define it right here, right now? Could you do it? Well, today we're going to dive into that because we're going on a quest to deconstruct leadership and find a definition that actually works. It seems like it should be a simple question, right? But leadership is kind of like the word art. We all feel like we know it when we see it, but try to pin it down with a single definition and it gets slippery. Turns out, we're not alone in this. Scholars have been wrestling with this exact question for over 100 years. So just how much have they wrestled with it? Well, get this. One researcher, J.C. Ross, went through all the literature from 1900 to 1990 and found over 200 different definitions. 200! That's just wild. And that complexity is precisely why we need to break this down and find some solid ground.
To really get a handle on where we are now, we have to understand where we've been. See, the idea of leadership isn't set in stone. It's changed and evolved right alongside society itself.
This timeline tells a fascinating story. Back in the early 1900s, in the age of industrial giants, it totally makes sense that leadership was seen as top-down control and domination. But then, fast forward to the 50s, after the World Wars, and the focus shifts to how groups work together towards shared goals. By the 80s, with a boom in business theory, influence and transformation become the hot new words. And today, the conversation is bigger than ever. We see leadership as a dynamic process with a huge focus on followership and all these new models like authentic and servant leadership. Okay, so after that quick tour through history, you might be thinking we're still totally lost. But here's the good news. Despite all those different takes, a consensus has started to emerge. Modern scholars pretty much agree on a few essential components that are at the very heart of leadership. And here we have it. This is the modern consensus, all boiled down into one powerful sentence. This is our anchor for the rest of this explainer. Just look at the key words: process, influence, group, and common goal. Right away, you can tell this isn't about some lone hero on a horse. It's about a dynamic relationship. Let's unpack each of those pieces. All right, so there are 4 crucial ingredients here. First, leadership is a process. It's an interactive, two-way street between a leader and followers, not some magic quality you're born with. Second, it involves influence. This is the absolute engine of leadership. It's how it actually works. Third, it always happens in a group. You can't be a leader in a vacuum. And finally, it's all pointed toward common goals. That's the whole point, right? It gives the entire relationship its purpose and direction. Now that we have our working definition locked in, we can tackle some of the great debates, the really interesting questions that add some crucial nuance to what it really means to lead. And this brings us to our first huge debate, which really boils down to one simple question. Is leadership something you are, or is it something you do? The trait view is that classic born leader idea, that some people just have these innate special qualities that make them leaders. It makes leadership feel like a very exclusive club. But the process view, which lines up perfectly with our core definition, sees leadership as an observable behavior, an interaction that can be learned and developed. And that, my friends, is a game changer. It means leadership isn't some secret club you have to be born into. It's a skill you can learn and practice. Here's another key distinction. We often mix up leadership with having a certain job title. That's assigned leadership, the person who's the manager or director on the official chart. But then there's emergent leadership. And think about any team you've been on, you've seen this. The person with the title might be the assigned leader, but isn't there often someone else, the person everyone naturally looks to for guidance, the one who actually has the influence? That's the emergent leader. They earned it through their actions. For the final part of our quest, let's get even sharper by setting some clear boundaries. Because sometimes the best way to understand what a concept is to define what it is not. This brings us to that classic showdown, leadership versus management. And let's be clear, they are not the same thing. Think of it this way. Management is about keeping the whole operation running smoothly. It's planning, budgeting, solving problems. It creates order and consistency. Leadership, on the other hand, is about deciding where the operation should be going in the first place. It's about setting a vision, aligning people, and motivating them to move in a new direction. You need both, but they are very different functions. Bennis and Nannis captured this difference perfectly. Management is about mastering the system and executing efficiently, doing things right. Leadership is about vision, ethics, and direction, doing the right thing. It's a simple distinction, but a profound one. Of course, we can't talk about influence without talking about power. It really boils down to two main types. You've got position power, which is what comes with the job title, the ability to give raises or assign tasks. But we've all known bosses with titles who had zero real influence, right? That's where personal power comes in. It's earned. It comes from being respected, from being competent, from people actually liking you and trusting you. Real leaders lean heavily on this second kind.
And this is where we have to draw a hard, bright line. Leadership is not coercion. Using force, threats, or manipulation is the dark side of influence. It completely violates that idea of working with people toward a common goal. That's just domination, plain and simple. So, after this whole quest, what is the single most important takeaway? It's this. Leadership is not a title you wait for or a position you hold. It's an action you take. It's a process that anyone, anywhere in a group can choose to begin.
And that brings the question right back around to you. Understanding that leadership is an accessible process, not a reserved position, changes everything. It means the potential to influence, to build, and to guide toward a common goal is right there for the taking. The only question left is, how will you use it?